Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. My throat's a little sore. I've been on the phone nonstop for the last few days. As those of you that are paying close attention to what's going on in Iraq understand, we've been at this for quite some time, actually decades. And for those of us that have held the IQD and some of the other currencies and have paid close attention to what's going on, we know that we very well might be in the final turn here, and this thing's going to be coming to fruition. I see a window, and I'm going to explain, why I feel this way. I see a window roughly between 30 to 45 days if the things that are being promised, the things that are being discussed, the things that are being revealed do in fact come to fruition. Now, for those of us that have been involved in this for a long time, we know the dance. It's been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I think that this time it's a little different because I think we have the right players in Iraq at key positions, and we certainly have the right players in place in the United States. So I'm going to go ahead and review the information that I have with you. There's a lot. I could be here for quite some time, but I don't want to run through all of this. You don't want to hear all of this. So I like to try to bottom line the information for individuals. First thing I want to mention is something that's basic with all economies. And to some extent, this can explain why Iraq has been in such disarray. But it's important that a nation state control their money policy, because without controlling the money, the financial policies and their money supply, I meant to say money supply, you get what happened in Iraq. You get hyperinflation. And so Iraq has painstakingly attempted to gain control of the financial situation in country literally for a couple of decades. And unfortunately, we've been along for the ride. But it looks like they're finally, with regard to their monetary reform, on track. And so I've got a little formula here that I want to review with you. What we're seeing finally in Iraq is the digitization of their currency. That is what's going to facilitate the deletion or the collection of the 3-0 notes. The deletion of those 3-0 notes will facilitate a new exchange rate. And the new exchange rate will facilitate the HCL, which is for the benefit of the citizens, and result in a Basel IV compliant global rate, which is, of course, of great benefit for those of us who hold the IQD. And the catalyst for all of this has been Donald Trump, because he has basically grabbed Iraq by the scruff of the neck and has basically said, I'm not going to let go until you facilitate the reforms that you have been bumbling and stumbling through for better than 20 years. And in order to accomplish this, it involved more than Iraq. It involved basically the Middle East and some of the cultural issues that, frankly, retard their ability to enter the 21st century. The first thing Trump has done here was to neutralize Iran. Iran has been the bad penny. They've been involved in chaos in all of the surrounding and neighboring countries and been directly involved with the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans, soldiers, diplomats, and the like. So Iran right now, if you watch the news, is in utter chaos. It's unfortunate for the citizens of Iran, but this is unfortunately a necessary step to purge that country of this collection of radical imams that seem to hate everyone, including their own people. Trump also was responsible for the death of General Soleimani, an Iranian general who was wreaking havoc in Iraq, involved in the militias, and he took care of that guy rather quickly. The most recent thing that he's done is taken the bat out of the hand of Iran by destroying their nuclear program. But he did more than that. He not only took out their nuclear program, he let the world know, and when I say the world, I'm speaking specifically of China and Russia, that the United States has technologies far beyond what they had themselves and far beyond what they thought the United States had. So that was a wake-up call for all of the bad players that have been involved in the Middle East and actually globally for decades. Then Donald Trump sent his envoy, Savaya, to assist Iraq with the completion of their monetary reform. And the issues of most importance are ones that had to be resolved in order for Iraq to get out of a situation of being a sanctioned nation with a program rate, enjoy national sovereignty, and what comes with that is a global functioning currency. So what's going on in Iraq is the disbanding of the militias, closing of the border and all of the nefarious activities going on there, resolving the problem in Kurdistan, and that's where a lot of the troublemaking and foot-dragging has been. Now we have Prime Minister Soudani and his cabinet. They're right now in the process of reviewing and possibly amending the budget line by line, which is critical to the reinstitution of their currency. As I said, Trump has pushed the envelope by ending the attempted hegemony of Iran, controlling the militias in the country, and, if necessary, placing additional sanctions on Iraq for not proceeding. So where do we find ourselves now? We find ourselves with a sovereign nation of Iraq, with its borders closed, with the militias relatively neutralized, with Iran out of the picture permanently, I hope, and we have Prime Minister Soudani and his cabinet. Now, we need the Reconstruction and Development Coalition to assist with the new ministers, and the next logical thing here, oh, by the way, the president of Iraq, it's a ceremonial position, so it's Soudani and Soudani alone that's going to be pulling the levers. Now, the current cabinet negotiations involve, as I said, the Reconstruction and Development Coalition, which is the largest coalition and which will be in a position to name most, if not all, of the ministers. The federal court has stepped in and denied any further delays from Kurdistan and other nefarious players. So we have the imminent formation of a new government, Soudani as prime minister, Abdul Rashid as president. Now that's, again, a ceremonial position, but Rashid is the right person. We have within the next 30 to 45 days, I would say at the outside, we're going to have the cabinet in place. This means that a new government will have been formed. And their first order of business is, again, to review budget and release of the HCL. And, of course, what's embedded in the HCL is the new exchange rate. So for those of us that hold the Iraqi dinar, I'd love to be able to say it could happen tomorrow, and I guess anything's possible. But I think a more rational look is that we have a glide path of 30 to 45 days, and I see nothing on the radar at this point that can alter that. So that gives us time to decide whether we want to purchase some more dinar or perhaps some of the other currencies that I think are in line, like the dong, the Vietnamese dong, even perhaps the Indonesian rupiah and other global currencies. I know that a lot of our clients hold a number of currencies as well as some cryptos as well. And I think everything is right now, let me put it this way, I think we're at the point of no return. I don't think that there is a scenario that can stop what's coming, and within that time frame that I'm talking about, 30 to 45 days. Now, there always, at least in the past, has seemed to be someone or something that is interfered. But I just don't see that happening this time, and I'm going to lay that at the lap of Donald Trump. The man is what he's accomplished and what he continues to accomplish. He's ending wars. He's creating treaties. He's, right now, even what he's doing in Davos and what he's doing with Greenland. And, it's just, frankly, I don't think anybody, even supporters of the man, anticipated what he was doing. But, he was president for the first time. He underestimated his detractors and his enemies. He learned a lot. And when he came back, he knew who was who. He knew what to expect. He had preemptively provided scenarios to overcome what's going on. And now he's just a force of nature, and it's going to be to our advantage. I wonder sometimes, and everyone's entitled to their position, but I'm curious about people that hold dinar and dong and some of these other currencies, but do not, for whatever reason, personally or professionally, like Donald Trump. How are you going to rationalize in your mind that you're at the bank exchanging your currency because of his actions? But that's for them to deal with. So the next point is the reinstitution and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is going to create a windfall profit beyond anything that anyone has experienced. Even people that were involved in the reinstitution and revaluation of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s know that that windfall profit, so to speak, is absolute chump change compared to what's about to happen in terms of the Iraqi dinar. Because Iraq is a very unusual situation. It's never happened before. It's never going to happen again. We have a country that arguably, on paper, per square mile, could be the richest country in the world. And I've gone into excruciating detail about the resources of that country. It is plunged into an artificial program rate because of Saddam Hussein. So we purchased the the Iraqi dinar at a program rate where it's worth next to nothing. We sat on it for a lot longer than we had anticipated, but nevertheless, we're on the threshold of exchanging that currency for a windfall profit beyond any. I can't think of anything that could turn nothing into such a wealth. Literally, one day you've got $10 million dinar that are worth roughly $10,000. 30 days later, you're sitting in the bank to exchange it conservatively. Conservatively, if you got 10 million dinar, that could be $30 million for a $10,000 investment. I mean, that's absurd. Now, there's one other thing that the informed individual needs to do. They need to preemptively protect that windfall profit. How do you do that? Very simply, you assign those currencies, pre-valued currencies, to your asset protection trust package before the currencies reinstitute. Now, our trust package was authored by an attorney by the name of Robert Bly. Robert Bly is a nationally known expert and author with regard to asset protection. And he created a trust package specifically designed for dinarians, meaning that it was designed to protect an asset that's worth little or nothing, but will appreciate substantially. The strategy is very simple. You transfer or assign the asset to the trust before it increases substantially in value. And by doing so, you have the following benefits of this trust. First, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity because the assets within this trust are sealed. No one knows what the contents of the trust are. It's an asset protection trust. Second, by doing so, this will allow you to personally avoid IRS scrutiny. Now, as the beneficiary of the trust, you will enjoy the wealth created by this reinstitution, but you nevertheless are not the owner of this wealth. The trust is. So any audit of you will end rather quickly. And the IRS is rather loath to audit very sophisticated trust packages because they have more of a hit-and-run mentality. Now, if they want to investigate the trust, it's rock solid, and we're happy to provide whatever information is necessary, but that's probably unlikely. So you've got your privacy, you've got your anonymity, you've got your asset protection, you've avoided IRS scrutiny. Now, there's another benefit. Many of the individuals that have these currencies want to provide for their family and friends, and so they want to gift currencies to these family and friends, and that's a good thing to do. But some individuals are rather hesitant because they just feel for any number of reasons that these individuals are simply unable to manage a substantial amount of wealth, or they happen to be minors who clearly cannot do so. Well, included in our trust package is something that we created called a gift subtrust. So you can gift those currencies pre-RV to this gift subtrust for these named individuals. By doing so, you will avoid the federal gift tax, but the difference is this. Once the currencies reinstitute and revalue, you will have complete control of the proceeds for the benefit of those individuals that you wish to protect. In addition, this trust will allow you to avoid the cost, delay, and exposure of probate, and it will allow you to avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax is the tax that's assessed for the transfer of the estate to heirs. The federal estate tax can be as much as 55% of the estate, depending upon the size. But you completely avoid the federal estate tax. Why? You establish your trust. You assign your currencies to the trust. The currencies revalue. You now have this wealth in the trust, and you as the settlor, the creator of the trust, and the initial owner of the currencies, now enjoy the benefits of that revaluation within the trust. But one day you pass away, and you want to leave that to your heirs. But unlike most individuals, you don't have to pay the federal estate tax. Why? Because the heirs will receive their inheritance through the trust, just as you did during your lifetime. What this means is that when you pass away, the beneficiaries change, but the ownership does not. The currencies and the wealth provided from the reinstitution are still within the trust. And since there was no change of ownership, there's no federal estate tax, meaning that the heirs will receive 100 cents on a dollar of what you had accumulated yourself during your lifetime. The fifth benefit here is specific asset protection benefits. This trust will allow you to avoid something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. I don't want to go into a lot of detail about that, but basically what this means is you're off the grid and you're able to enjoy the benefits without any extraordinary tax assessed to you. And there's another benefit we like to refer to as segregation of assets. I refer to this as a package of trusts. Initially, there's just one trust, the master trust, that will hold your assigned currencies. But after the revaluation, you will begin to purchase items, homes, cars, boats, etc. As you purchase these items, you will place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by the master trust, the initial trust that held your pre-RV currencies. Now, what this does is it ensures that no one would be able to sue you for a substantial amount and take a substantial amount of your wealth. So let's say, for example, you purchased a couple of private homes, a home you lived in and maybe a vacation home, a half a dozen rental properties, a couple of cars, a boat, etc. Now, each one of those would go into a separate subtrust. So if any of those assets, if, for example, someone were to be injured in one of your rental properties, you were in a car accident or a boating accident, it would only be that asset involved in the litigation because all of your other assets are segregated. They're in separate subtrusts, which under the law are separate legal entities, which would not be involved in the litigation. So the prospective plaintiff would have no standing to pursue anything beyond what's in that subtrust. So these are all of the benefits that are available to you preemptively by simply assigning your currencies to the trust before they revalue. The currencies will revalue, you will go to the bank, you will negotiate your exchange, the USD will then go into the trust bank account that will be established that day at that bank, and at that point, you'll be making some post-RV decisions. What assets you currently own do you want to keep, and which assets do you want to either give away or sell? And then with the wealth that you possess post-RV through the trust, you'll purchase homes, cars, boats, etc., whatever you feel you need or that you want. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts that consists of one master trust, which is the initial trust that you will establish pre-RV that will hold your assigned currencies. One optional gift subtrust if you wish to give currencies to family, friends, and children and control the post-RV proceeds, and 8 additional standard subtrusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when Trusts Unlimited, our attorney, Robert Bly, decided he wanted to create a specific trust package for denarians and mass market it, he could create this sophisticated trust package and make it available for a substantially lower price. So our trust package with all of the benefits that I've just described, a package that would ordinarily cost someone walking in off the street anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 would be available to you for the price of $2,500. We even have a deferred payment arrangement if you don't have the initial $2,500. Although most individuals don't have a problem with the $2,500, especially if they're interested in estate planning and understand what it would cost to have a single trust created by a law firm. So all you would need to do would be to contact us, and we would be very happy to provide for you our initial no-obligation package. You can review the package. It has a lot of information about us, about trusts in general, about this specific trust and the cost involved. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. Again, if you decide to proceed, everything you need in the initial package. Once we receive your application, your trust will be established. It will be sent to you. It will have instructions as to what to do to make sure that the trust is enforced and your currencies are then assigned to that trust. I don't know why, but the phone here will not stop ringing. So let me first, let's do this. Let's go to the Q&A. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to assist you. I'm a little concerned because I've gotten a half a dozen phone calls. Of course, I've been getting phone calls day and night for about a week, so I shouldn't be that surprised. But here, we have some people in the Q&A, so let's see here. Our first caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Is the OFAC sanctions, is that going to be lifted as well?
Yes, my understanding is that they're still there. I think they are still there because Trump is using them to, what's the right word, to coerce Iraq to complete what needs to be done in order for the reinstitution and revaluation of their currency.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Our next caller is area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Larry from Maryland.
Hey, Larry.
I'm remembering a couple of weeks ago you had mentioned, I think it was you had mentioned, it couldn't be anyone else, that the current denominations would no longer be used and they were going to use the new denominations. If that was actually true, if I'm understanding correctly, what does that change anything in this whole process?
Well, if I understand the question, what's going to happen is they're going to issue their newer, lower denominations. They're eliminating the 3-0 note. Remember, the 3-0 provisional note was created because of the hyperinflation. With the elimination of the hyperinflation, there's no need for the 3-0 notes, and they certainly, at least in country, will eliminate the use of the 3-0 notes and replace them with the lower denoms, accompanied by the new exchange rate.
So is that the reevaluation at that point?
What that means is that in country, let's say you're an Iraqi citizen, and you have a $10,000 provisional note. That note, the 3 zeros are lopped off. I hate to use that term, but I will. The 3 zeros are gone, and the $10,000 note, less the 3 zeros, is a $1,000 note. So you had a $10,000 provisional note at a program rate. You now have a $1,000 note with the new exchange rate. However, that's for the citizens of Iraq. For those of us outside, whether we're a central bank, whether we're a hedge fund, whether we're a whale investor, whether we're just a regular Joe Lunchbox investor who invested in Iraq by purchasing the provisional 3-0, those 3 zeros will be recognized by our bank and by the Central Bank of Iraq.
And then if we were to want to, can you still be buying the currency the way we are after that point?
Confusing me. I guess you could buy them now. As a matter of fact, I might check that out myself. But once the reinstitution happens, they won't. You won't be buying the provisional note because they'll be retired both domestically and internationally.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 443. That's 443. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. This is Gina, also from Maryland.
Gina.
How are you?
Yes. How are you?
I'm all right, sir. So last week, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to share some information. Last week, there was a gentleman who indicated that he had set up a trust account with Chase. I have also have a trust account set up with Chase. I only have a savings account in the name of the trust because you only have to put like $300 in the account. And but I also have an account in the name of the trust set up with Truist Bank. And I did it. It was along lines of the gentleman last week that I just felt like it would be a good idea to have the accounts established. And so I just didn't have to deal with that part of it at the time. So for anyone who is, wants to try to take that action, those are two financial institutions that I have set it up with. It was they want documentation from the trust. They do send it like up to this. They send it out of the branch, and a higher level or whatever has to look at it, and they might come back with some questions or whatever. But and I actually took my trustee. It was me, my spouse, and my trustee all went to the bank together and did it. So just sharing. And then also I had I know you keep indicating all these things that are happening, that they wouldn't be happening if this wasn't going to happen. And I agree, it just doesn't seem logical that all these things would be lining up. But I haven't heard anyone mention, but I saw it's been at least a month, if not more, that I saw that the U.S. has established a consulate in Iraq. We spent $800 million to establish or build this infrastructure for a consulate. So why would that happen if there wasn't, if it wasn't inevitable that this was going, I just wanted to share, and you can share your thoughts on that.
Well, I agree with you with the consulate. However, that's just one of the issues. Another reason there's a consulate there is because the United States is very aggressively establishing a beachhead in Iraq because they want to be involved in the rebuilding of the infrastructure of Iraq. Remember, the United States poured a lot of human treasure into the salvation and resurrection of that country. And we have a president that's not going to stand in line with anybody. And so there's a lot going on in Iraq. We're going to be deeply involved in the rebuilding and restructuring of Iraq. We're going to do it while simultaneously neutering Iran as well, because it makes no sense to build up one country if its next-door neighbor is hell-bent on destroying it. So there's a lot of work to be done. The United States has lost a lot of treasure, spent trillions basically to assist with the resurrection of Iraq. They did more than every other country combined, and the present occupant of the White House is just not going to take no for an answer. So, this is where we find ourselves.
Yep.
It's a good place.
Yeah, I hope.
I know.
But as it goes on, it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, the end of next week is the end of January. And then it's like, if it doesn't happen, then it's like, I don't want it to happen at the end of the quarter. I guess we take it if it comes, but it's just going to be so much, I think, more stressful.
Well, let's assume hypothetically that this popped on the last day of the first quarter of 2026. And let's assume that there's no way that we can get to the bank, negotiate our exchange, and have sufficient funds available to pay the federal income tax. This is just my opinion here. There's no way, in my opinion, that Donald Trump is going to let them take one penalty of penalties or interest from us because of that scenario. It's just not going to happen, in my opinion. We're not going to get hurt.
I mean, I agree that I think he has the best interest of everybody, the world. Like, I don't think it's going to impact him too, because, I understand, that he has it, right? He has it. And you have lots of other hoity-toity, well-to-do people in this country that have it. So, but we'll see. I just wanted to share, and maybe it helps somebody out.
Right, and it's funny. There are going to be people. Let's say your scenario happens, and Trump pumps the brakes on the IRS. People are going to say, "Well, he only did it, save himself a nickel." My answer would be, "So what? Believe what you want. I don't care. What he did helped us. If that's not good enough for you, have a nice day."
It's just so sad. Like he could come up with the cures for the worst things. He could come up with, he could develop a cure for autism and make people who've never been able to speak to their parents. And there's just people that they just would not give him credit. It's very sad, and you almost have to think that there's just something kind of deeply troubling for people. Like, but anyway, that's my opinion.
The right in this country thinks the left is wrong. The left in this country thinks the right are bad. So it's just the way it is, and it is what it is. You got to deal with it. But if I'm walking out of the bank after this thing with what I think I'm going to walk out of the bank with, it's going to be pretty hard to piss me off at that point, because I got a lot to do, and I have the means to do a lot of the things that I like to do, and that's more important to me than all of this petty crap.
Yeah, I just pray, I pray for it and hope for it, because I have family members that I want to help, and I'd like to pay off mortgage so I don't have to deal with that anymore. I don't need millions and millions. If it works out that way, that's great. But just, enough to help people not have a mortgage is just it's so helpful. It's so helpful to people. So anyway, we'll keep.
There's all kinds of things we can do. I want to mention real quickly one thing people can do is set up something called a charitable remainder trust. So let's say hypothetically, I'll use the same example. You have 10 million dinar. You got $3 for it. Now you have 30 million. Let's say after taxes you have 18 million. So you decide that of course you have our trust, but you want to transfer 5 million to a charitable remainder trust, which means when you pass away, that 5 million will go to, say, a half a dozen charitable groups, this church organization, this other charitable group, etc. Well, it means two things. It not only means that 5 million will be distributed among those charities, it also means that all of the income generated by that 5 million during your lifetime is tax-free to you. So you can do the right thing, and it benefits you greatly as well. But that's a post-RV discussion. We'll have, individuals will say, "Hey, Jim, I exchanged my currency. I got X millions in my trust bank account. Here's my list of things that I want to do. What else might you suggest?" Well, I might ask, who do you love, or what organizations would you like to help? I see on TV all the time the thing about the children's hospitals. That's something I might want to do. But again, you leave them a chunk of change, and all the interest is tax-free to you until they receive it. So there's a lot. When you have the lump sum of money, there's a lot of things you can do and help a lot of people.
But to those organizations, they don't get anything to use until you pass. Is that correct?
That doesn't mean you can't make annual charitable contributions, but I'm just saying if you want to leave a lump sum, what a lot of people will want to do is leave lump sums to universities and things like that. So, it's not that they really need the money, but you can give to some group that you really believe in and still benefit now from it. And, of course, a lot of the denarians are older individuals, so, setting up a charitable remainder trust, that money might be available to that charity in a relatively short period of time. I sure know I'm a lot older than I thought I was going to be when I got involved in this thing, So some of the things I was going to do, I'm probably not going to do, but now there's some other things that I didn't consider a few years back that I'm going to do now. And, of course, enough time has passed that my children are older. I've got grandchildren, and so, my situation's going to change and how I structure everything's going to change appropriately.
Okay, so we'll talk about that because there is something that I would be interested in doing like that. But I actually I donate to this organization now. It's a child trafficking rescue, Tim Ballard Rescue. Yeah, Tim Ballard Rescue Foundation. He rescues trafficked children. So I donate now, but I can only do a little bit a month.
Now, see, that's an example of something. When we post RV, these are discussions we'll have, but that's an example of something. You mentioned that on a call post RV. I guarantee you, people will text me or email me and say, "I want her phone number because I want to get involved with that." So that's it's going to be a lot more fun. We're going to be, helping individuals, helping institutions, and in addition to helping ourselves. And what's better than that?
Yeah. So those are things would, and given what he's doing, I would want to be able to, which if I'm positioned properly, if this works out, I should clearly be able to give like significantly more on a regular basis. But I wouldn't want something like that to wait until I'm not here, right? I want that organization, so that they can do what they're doing now. But okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for the chat, and we'll move it on to somebody else. Take care.
Okay, Peter. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Our next caller is area code 509. That's 509. Go ahead.
Jim, this is Art in Spokane or
yes,
Washington
sir, Art.
State.
How you doing? Yes, sir.
Doing well. Hey, there's been a lot of chatter going back and forth and around. We know that the banks, whichever banks they are, Chase, Wells, or whatever, are going to be exchanging. But there's also been a lot of discussion the whole time about redemption centers. Now, redemption centers, understandably, as I recall, are supposed to have a greater rate and so on and so forth. The question I have is to you, if you are familiar with the redemption centers and if you were able to connect with the redemption center, how would you be able to utilize your trust at that time? Because you don't know, if that's going to be with a bank, with a federal institution, on a military installation, to be able to do that, these kind of questions.
Right.
And,
well, this is a subject, along with just the standard exchange at a bank, that we're a little bit hamstrung with, because what we're going to do is we're going to contact the banks that are involved, along with the exchange centers, and basically say, look, we are Trusts Unlimited. We represent X thousands of clients that have currencies and have our trust, and we want to know what you can do for them in terms of the exchange. The only proviso is the USD that they exchange for must go into a trust bank account, not a personal account. So we'll be talking to them, so we'll get a general idea. Now, I know, or I suspect, that half or more of our clients will run to the bank with their hair on fire to do their exchange before the time we can get all of this done. The other issue, again, is someone on the earlier call mentioned. If this thing pops like the last week of a quarter, we simply will not have time to do that kind of work because, the taxes will be due, and you don't want to be tardy on the tax because the penalty is 100%. So but I just have a feeling that Trump is not going to allow them to short sheet us like that. I think he's going to resolve it in a way, make sure that no one gets hurt when they've made a good faith effort to exchange the currency and pay their tax. But the exchange, it's a little more complicated than I'm discussing here.
Right.
But we're going to do everything we can. We just have nothing to negotiate with. Once the currency reinstitutes, then
Right.
we've got their complete and undivided attention. Until then, it's all smoke and mirrors to them. So, the day before the exchange, I'm a lunatic. The day after the exchange, I'm a genius. That's just the way it works, and so we're going to have to wait till we achieve genius status in order to get that information.
Yeah, it may not be right, but it's correct. Hey, in addition, one other quick question, in that how many, if it's a fair question, calls will you plan to have following the RV and be able to, whether it be on a Zoom calls or, however that's set up, how many do you anticipate having to help people negotiate the muddy waters of investments and utilizing their trust?
We won't be involved in individual exchange negotiations with a client and an institution. What we will be able to do, to the best of our ability, is give you the general information we gleaned, who you may want to go to. Or I'll give you another example. One of the little things banks do is, they make money on the float. And there are banking regulations about, when you do an exchange and things like that. But if they hand you a deposit slip with a 10 or 20-day hold on your money, then they basically have said you can't do anything with it, and they get to float it, and then there's the 10-to-1 ratio for them to get additional funds from the central bank and all of that. So I don't want to get into all this banking nonsense, but we will try to provide some basic do's and don'ts for the exchange. Don't raise your voice. Don't make any threats with these individuals. Be firm with them with what you will accept, what you will not accept. Let them know that you only want a standard hold on your money, no 10, 15, or 20-day, all this kind of stuff. We'll be, to the best of our ability, trying to get that information out to you. But we're busy as hornets now, just doing all the pre-RV stuff. So I guess it's time for us to maybe, if we have to assign to someone, give them a laundry list of things we want answers to, and have them call banks and try to put together a spreadsheet of what you can expect if you go to Bank A versus Bank B, etc. But we have to be, I think, well, perhaps we are close enough. Maybe it is time for me to call the lawyer and say, look, we need to get somebody in the office, an assistant, give them a checklist of things we want done, and have them contact the banks, get the information provided to us. We can send it out in email form, and I can discuss it on our calls. I guess it's time to do that. I'll make a note of that.
I would submit that it is, because you're right at the threshold, the military crest of that process. So the more, I know it may be asking a lot more for you to do, but it certainly will help. Not you.
I just wrote it down on a little stickum here on my desk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the attorneys, tell them maybe it's time to do this, and then that's on them, So, but that's a good idea. I guess it's time.
I would submit that.
Right.
That would take a lot of pressure off of people. At least have them as a point of departure, being able to have an idea what to do and where to go, and not necessarily where to go, but what option you have once you are in the facility and across the table from them.
One of the things I probably shouldn't belabor this, but one of the things I'm going to do is I was considering calling the banks myself. So if I call the banks myself, I want to absolutely know the name, position of the person I'm talking to. Because if they give me a lot of jazz and this is crap and it's nonsense and it's a scam and all of that, I want to be able to call them back and remind them of post-RV of our first conversation. And then I want to ask them,
agree.
How much currency didn't you buy?
Right. Well, I've made those calls myself, and you're right. There's a gatekeeper that's there, and they're anything but, for lack of better words, positive.
Right.
And it's not worth getting into a conversation with someone that either doesn't know or is told flatly to not give out any information that would be of any consequence.
Right. Yeah.
These people that have already gone to, Chase, I've talked to Chase. They want us to come in and show them the trust and let them send it back to their back office and all this other information. And wait a minute, this trust is set up by a man by the name of Robert Bly, and the fact that it's a well-known trust, it's been
but they don't know. The people you're talking to, they don't know any of that. They don't know any of that, and they're also thinking, well, if you want to have a trust, you can have one of our trusts, and of course, this is kind of hard for me to say, but as far as I'm concerned, their trust is garbage. Okay, so I'm not doing that.
Well, that's a non-starter. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't set all this up to have them come along with their, little nonsensical. It's probably a revocable trust too. It's just not appropriate for what we're doing. But you're the one with the currency, so I mean, we're going to have to swallow hard and say, look, I want the money to go into my trust bank account. This is a legal, legitimate trust. You can set up a bank account for this trust, put the USD into that trust. If you want to take a look at my trust, that's fine. I'll show you the master trust because that's what the bank account will be established in the name of the master trust. But I want the money to go into that master trust. If you don't like that trust, I'll be happy to move my money to another bank, but it's not going into a personal account. It's going into a master trust